Welcome, everyone.
I'm going to stop screen sharing so we can all see each other.
Oh, perfect. All right, welcome, everyone. I'm Brett Halverson. I'm the program coordinator at VSJF, and our session host today is Caitlin. Welcome, Caitlin. And I'm just going to get us started by going over our ground rules or group agreements for the session. So if everyone can come to the conversation from a place of respect and kindness, and be sure to make sure your Zoom name reflects your first and last name and your place of work or your affiliation. Try to remain muted unless you're called upon. Use the raise hand feature or type into the chat your comments. And then try to avoid interrupting each other if possible. And then just note that the session is being recorded and we're going to be sharing it on our website. And then I'm just going to turn things over to our facilitator. So with us today to talk about food security is Katie Davis, and she's the Community Health Initiatives Director at Hunger Free Vermont. So welcome, Katie. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having us. So my name is Katie Davis, and I'm the Community Health Initiatives Director at Hunger Free Vermont. And we just wanted to kick it off with a brief land acknowledgement. So I'm joining from Burlington, which is the traditional and present homelands and waters of the Western Abenaki. And I commit to honoring and respecting the soil, the plants, animals, air, and water that give me life as a visitor to this land. And I really would like to invite anybody else who would like to share their own personal land acknowledgement to put that in the chat now or later on in the session, whenever you feel so moved to do so. And so it's my pleasure to be here with my co-presenters, Becca Warren from the Sustainable Jobs Fund. And originally, Jenna Williams from the Vermont Food Bank was going to join us, and she played a role in putting this session together, but wasn't feeling well. So she is sitting this one out as we all are getting more used to being more respectful of who we are and taking the time that we need. So we're happy that she's able to do that, and we'll share some things on her behalf. But I just wanted you all to know that. So as Brett mentioned, please put your name, your organization, and the pronouns that you like to use in your Zoom name. And if you want to share kind of where you physically are in the chat as part of an intro, that would be great as well. So today we kind of have broken up the session into two chunks. So during our time together, we're going to begin by sharing some reflections about how our state has been able to respond to food insecurity during the pandemic. And there'll be opportunity for all of you to share some of the things that you may have seen, some of the things you were inspired by, some of the things that you think really worked or alternatively really didn't work. And a lot of that reflection is really intended for us to think about what are some of the tenets and the underpinnings of things that we want to make sure that are included in a food insecurity plan for the state. And then with those lessons in mind, we're going to share a bit more about the food security plan development and then have a chance for some small group conversations so we can really dig into some of the different components of things, and you can all have a sense of what's going to happen moving forward. I will turn it over to Becca.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, the one thing I'm having issues with is figuring out where my controls are. So thank you everyone for your patience. Okay. Here we go. I'm trying to share the screen. Did that work?
Good.
Okay, thumbs up. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Love it. Okay, so this is the session you're supposed to be in. So hopefully you feel like you're on the right flight. So we just wanted to, as we, hold on, I'm just clicking through all my screens. Next time, I'm not going to run the slideshow. Caitlin was right. So, as Jake shared earlier, the network is newly oriented around the priority strategies in the new plan, and there will be a strategy team that will work on the strategy of the food security plan for the state. And this is the definition of food security that we are using, which is from the FAO at the UN. And one reason we use this one is that it's more expansive than the USDA definition. The USDA definition has a lot to do with economic access. So the USDA says food security means access by all people at all times to enough food for an active, healthy life. I like this one, and I think some of we also like this one because it is much more encompassing of access, utilization, and stability. So as Katie said, oh, this is our aims of the session slide. Katie, you already went over this. So this is our aims of the session: debriefing, getting updates on the food access responses in the state that have been happening during the pandemic. What was good, what was bad, what do we want to do next? We know we can process and start to be proactive toward the future and get a start on the food security plan discussion. So this is the food security priority strategy. And I have joined the Farm to Plate backbone staff at the Jobs Fund to be the food security plan project manager. So I'll be working with the project team on the strategy of the food security plan, supporting that work. We are going to have a discussion about what's going to be in the plan today, and we've scheduled our first strategy team meeting. I think we might be the first strategy team to have a first meeting. It'll be on December 10th from noon to 2, and I'll have more information for everyone about how to get involved with that meeting at the end of our discussion. And I'm going to turn it back to Katie.
Great. So we're now going to take a very speedy trip down memory lane and kind of bring us into the present and take a look at some of the efforts that were put in place or that were expanded, that were already in place to address food insecurity since the onset of the pandemic. So the goal of this piece of our session is really to reflect on what happened so that it can inform the development of the food security plan. So how do we really carry forward what worked well for us, and how do we let go of what didn't serve us? So I'm going to start by talking a bit about the federal programs and how those expanded in order to meet growing need. And then I'll share some of Jenna Williams' notes about some of the food bank experiences and really what they learned there. And then potentially Valerie Woodhouse from Honeyfield Farm will join us and share some of what she has. If she's not able to make it here in time, then Becca will step in and share her thoughts. And then we're going to have a chance for each of you to contribute what you saw, things that were amazing, that were inspiring, to carry forward, and things that we really want to kind of move away from, that we realize weren't best practices or may develop too many barriers for folks. And we're going to try to avoid jargon whenever possible. I think there's a lot of knowledge in this room around food access programs, but if we say something that you don't know what it means, please throw it in the chat and we can stop and explain things too. And in addition, if we're really flying through some of this, if you want to chat about any of this after, please feel free to reach out to any of us directly. Next slide, please. Okay, so within the federal nutrition programs, one of the underlying programs that's really a foundation for increasing food access throughout the state is 3 Squares Vermont, which provides federal money directly to people who qualify for the program to buy the foods they want at the place that they want to shop. So there's a lot of autonomy there. So some temporary expansions that we've seen is maximum benefit. So by household size, folks were able to receive the maximum benefit for their household size as long as they qualified for the program. So not getting kind of a prorated amount based on what their household income was. And we also saw an alleviation of some of the reporting requirements. So trying to make the program give folks who qualified a little bit more and make it a little bit easier for them to get those benefits. So that was some temporary kind of expansions that we saw. A permanent expansion that's come about since the pandemic is the updating of the Thrifty Food Plan, which really gives anyone who qualifies will get higher benefits going forward permanently in perpetuity. It had been 40 years since this plan had been updated. So while in many ways it is a victory, it has been a victory long in the making, and still those benefits need to be higher. So some constraints that came up for this program were unchanging eligibility thresholds. So only folks who could qualify for the program, in previous days would also be able to qualify for the program now. So there's a lot of folks who don't, I'm sorry, I should have muted my phone prior to this. So a lot of folks who were struggling didn't qualify for the program too. And then there's a great deal of stigma that goes along with any sort of food access program, and that's still true with 3 Squares Vermont. Next slide, please. So meals for older adults, so Meals on Wheels and congregate meal sites would provide home delivered meals and communal dining opportunities for older folks and those with disabilities. They were able to kind of forego the congregate meal requirement and provide to-go meals for folks, and actually expand some of the eligibility for who they were able to deliver to. This program relies heavily on volunteers and has a really complicated funding stream. And so those are some of the constraints to really expanding and have that program reach absolutely everybody that it could. Next slide, please. School meals. More than 10 million meals have been served to kids since the start of the pandemic. So schools have been able to feed kids 18 and under through some program waivers from USDA. And some early childhood programs have been able to partner with schools to get meals to provide to their young kiddos. Hopefully a permanent change in this will be that we'll have universal school meals across the state of Vermont, which is coming to a legislature near you in the coming session. So hopefully everybody is excited about that and on board with it. And you can find out more information at hungerfreevt.org about how you can play a role in that effort. There's been tremendous pressure on this workforce, and I think that can't be understated. So that's something that we really need to think about moving forward with a food security plan is how do we really elevate and support the population of folks who are working on this. WIC. So WIC provides money to purchase fruits and vegetables and some other specific items, as well as nutrition education counseling and some things like that. So during the pandemic, WIC was able to have an increased cash value benefit. So the card that folks get to go purchase fresh or any kind of, it can be frozen too, fruits and vegetables, that amount was increased. And folks didn't have to go into offices to have their, periodic check-ins and to do nutrition education there. So they were able to do that by phone. And there's been some of the changes that have been made to the food package so the foods that they're allowed to buy have been expanded to be permanent, which is wonderful. Next slide, please. Pandemic EBT was a new program that was created for families with children so that they could get an EBT card very similar to the same card that you would get if you're on 3 Squares Vermont. So families with kids who are qualified for free or reduced price meals could get these cards, and we put a ton of money out into the state. I think the constraints of it really were that the changing parameters have made it really confusing for families. So the different iterations as different allotments have gone out have made it really confusing. It's really complicated to administer this program kind of technically through DCF and AOE. And so they really it was a lot of back end work trying to get this to happen. And there is some really great opportunity with summer EBT, which could be a great recovery tool and a long-term approach, especially for rural areas where getting to congregate meal sites in the summer is a real challenge. Next slide, please. All right, so we're moving into, these were Jenna's pieces. So please give me a little bit of grace as I share some of her notes with you. So the food bank really did a lot to expand the services for network partners. So a network partner, Vermont Food Bank has 215 nonprofit organizations that are made up of food shelves, meal sites, childcare facilities, senior centers, and so on. And network partners have access to food and other resources through the Vermont Food Bank. And a network partner agreement makes an organization a part of the Feeding America network as well. The food bank has always run a food co-op program that allows network partners to purchase dry pantry staples directly from the food bank. And during the pandemic, the food bank made a large portion of these items available for free. They waived membership and delivery fees. And really their takeaways from this is that the network is the backbone of the charitable food access network in Vermont. And these smaller organizations really do a lot to reduce the meal gap, enable food access across the state. To strengthen food security, the Vermont Food Bank really needs to continue to invest in network partner capacity and resources. So these smaller organizations are able to be as nimble as they need to be when emergencies come up. So then we can move on to the next slide. So the food box programs that I'm sure many of you have heard of. The Farmers to Family program started in May of 2020 and then went through December of 2020 and then March 2021 to May of 2021. And these provided a food box program with a special kind of linked up with a special program the USDA had implemented as part of COVID response. And so the program's primary objective was to support large producers and food service companies negatively impacted by the pandemic lockdown. So feeding people was a secondary priority. The Vermont Food Bank worked in collaboration with the Abbey Group, the state of Vermont, Vermont National Guard, and the Vermont Agency of Transportation to really execute this program in full. The Vermont Farmers to Families, which started in January of 21 to March of 21, the USDA suspended the Farmers to Family food boxes going into 2021, and the Vermont Food Bank really felt strongly that the need around Vermont demanded the program to continue. So the Vermont Food Bank partnered with the Abbey Group to source and distribute their own fresh food. And the majority of the food was sourced from Vermont producers, and they really hoped to feed people in need and to stimulate the Vermont agricultural economy. And then Full Plates Vermont and USDA announced the Farmers to Families was ending and shifting to funding the Emergency Food Assistance Program, TFAP, and the food bank partnered with the Abbey Group to box and distribute TFAP food boxes. And their takeaways from this were really low to no barrier access to federal foods was really major. So in the beginning, it was very easy, and the requirements got slowly more stringent as you went to go sign up for these boxes. Boxes were a great way to get mass feeding while keeping people safe from COVID. So the way the distributions were set up was very COVID safe and made people and the folks working there feel safe to be able to attend. Program participants really liked the information transparency. So all the distribution dates were being posted online. There was high quality fresh foods. And there's a lot of anonymity in being able to pick up. And program participants didn't like the lack of shopper choice, the limited distribution window. So it was often 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And how quickly events would fill up. Working in collaboration with USDA was really challenging, and every phrase brought new and different challenges. And I think this is something that we see coming up over and over again, is this quick change, these just-in-time decisions that are being made by USDA make it really challenging to operate programs on the ground. And then the food boxes were expensive and labor intensive, and those resources could have been better met the need by expanding 3 Squares Vermont. Next slide, please. So during the pandemic, the Vermont Food Bank has provided a number of grants. So before COVID, the food bank makes small grants to a number of network partners, but the food bank to date has issued 5 rounds of COVID-19 relief funding, and each round has been slightly different based on which phase of the pandemic it was executed in. So initially, it started as automatic direct payments to network partners back in the May of 2020, and it involved a little bit more of a competitive grant process. And some of their takeaways from that were communities really needed different things to thrive. And as all of you as community leaders know, what is better needed. The Vermont Food Bank has the capacity to fundraise or advocate for funding in a way that many of our partners cannot. Grant making allows them to use the capacity to monetarily support smaller nonprofits, which is a really, really important role to play. Next slide, please. So around local purchasing, there was an expansion of the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters program. So the Vermont Food Bank expanded its Vermonters Feeding Vermonters program to ensure that low-income Vermonters had access to fresh foods and to Vermont producers, they had a market for their products. So this really includes making purchases made directly by the food bank and mini grants to network partners to buy Vermont produce directly from their local farms. So this program also includes the Farmers to Family food boxes, the state dairy program. Vermont Food Bank worked in conjunction with the state of Vermont to source excess dairy. So some of the fluid milk that was produced by local producers to create value-added products like yogurt. So some of their major takeaways from some of the local food programs that they put together: the Vermont Food Bank has purchasing power, and Vermonters Feeding Vermonters contracts have had a profound impact on individual farms. The Vermont Food Bank values local food, but the price point makes it challenging to prioritize these foods. Having subsidies from the state can really make purchasing these a huge success. And during the pandemic, the state subsidized all of our local food purchasing programs. So those are our thoughts from our colleague Jenna Williams at the Food Bank. And I think we can turn it over to Becca to talk a little bit about the, do you want to share what
do you not want to talk about the key lessons from that you and Jenna had discussed?
Yeah, I can talk about this first if you like. Yeah. So I think some of the key lessons to think about as we're building a plan and thinking about what are some of the underpinnings of what we either create or enhance or connect are really the workforce shortages and fatigue. A lot of food access programs rely heavily on volunteers, and this is inherently problematic when you have a pandemic in place. So kind of thinking about that, thinking about how we support them publicly, what kind of support is coming from the state? Are they essential workers? There's some of these different considerations that could be kind of brought into a plan. Stigma, low barrier is best. The absolute minimum that we need to be asking from people in order to be able to be giving them food, ideally just asking them, would you like me to put it in your trunk for you, is the most ideal. So really trying to ask ourselves the questions of, what kind of roadblocks are we putting up for folks? Is there anything we can do about this? And really trying to dig into that and not just accepting what we hear from others. I think consistency is a really important piece with a lot of these programs. Over the course of the pandemic, we've gotten just-in-time notice from USDA, and that really doesn't recognize how much it takes to mobilize on the ground, how much it takes to get messages out to individual people so that they know where to go. And this was a really a big bottleneck across all of these programs, and created a lot of unnecessary agita, I think, for the folks who are trying to run them and the folks who are trying to access them. And then, we had a nice combination of both federal programs and federal funding and local programs. And I think one of the key things to think about is how do we really leverage the federal programs and maximize those so that we can really use state funding to fill in the gaps, and think about kind of the way that puzzle starts to fit together.
Thank you so much, Katie.
I'm sorry for talking so fast.
That was 2 people's worth of presentations. It was amazing. Valerie, did you join? I did not see you in the participation list yet. All right, I'm going to assume Valerie's not here. So we had asked Valerie Woodhouse of Honeyfield Farm was already planning to come to this session, and was really happy to give a farmer perspective and a farmer connection on what it meant to respond to community needs during the pandemic. But she's packing her fall share or some similar order and realized she wasn't going to be able to make it in time. So I'm just going to represent her thoughts that she sent me. So Honeyfield is a farm in Norwich, Vermont. It's a diversified vegetable farm. They, Eli and Valerie have been farming there, I think, for 3 or 4 years now. They took over the farm from a very long-standing community-based farm. So Valerie shared the following notes with me. The following ways that Honeyfield has worked to address food security in the era of COVID. She says, as a brand new business, we were able to quickly pivot our business to adapt to COVID and ensure nutritious food was reaching everyone in the community. In response to COVID, we created an online store for customers to pre-order organic vegetable and herb starts for their gardens. Willing Hands, the food restoration organization just 2 miles down the road from our farm. And she's using an interesting term for Willing Hands here, which maybe is what they're calling themselves now, but just to be clear, Willing Hands is the largest gleaning organization down in the Upper Valley region. So that is their main activity, is food rescue and donation. So she says, Willing Hands is our biggest ally. Volunteers glean every week on the farm. In 2020, we donated 10,000 pounds of fresh produce, raised $1,200 in donated CSA shares, raised $500 in donation for winter CSA shares. We donated veggie starts to community gardens, family centers, and to our local food restoration organization, Willing Hands. We received a COVID relief grant from the Center for an Ag Economy in NOFA for a delivery van to increase local delivery of veggie and herb garden starts, fresh produce and flowers. They delivered weekly to a local senior living community that was on lockdown with garden starts, fresh produce, and bedding plants from April to August of 2020. They donated 200 cut flower starts for their healthcare garden to provide fresh bouquets to sick or bedbound community members. The farm contributed over 1,000 pounds of produce to restaurants and community centers in New York, who made free meals for the communities. They worked through the Farmers Feeding Families program to provide produce for box meal programs and participated in NOFA's farm share programs to double share size for families and individuals experiencing economic hardships. Their community collaborated with them to launch the Norwich Victory Gardens, where they offered a discount on veggie starts and a free sunflower for gardeners who committed to grow extra food to donate to Willing Hands, the local food restoration organization. But wait, there's more. In 2021, we continued to work closely with Willing Hands and donated plant starts to schools, community centers, family centers, and various gleaning organizations across the state. We're always looking for more opportunities to ensure food security for everyone in our state and community. So I'm sorry that Valerie couldn't make it. I know she is sorry as well, but I think that is just an amazing list of confirming what we all know about the centrality of our agricultural producers to our food security and secure food supply. Back to you, Katie.
The notes in the chat are beautiful, and I echo every single one of them. So we've, drinking by a fire hose, we've just shared a lot of information about how kind of some of the broader structures of programs have, provided support throughout the pandemic, but there's so many more stories. There's so many more experiences that folks have had, either kind of implementing one of those programs on the ground or devising other programs and trying to really connect with both people and connect them with food. And so now we're going to kind of jump into some small groups where we can have a chance everyone can have a chance to really share the stories that you have, the things that you noticed in your community and your work, and through your experience that really made a difference and really were delightful for one reason or another, or potentially were problematic for one reason or another. And those are the things that we really want to start to hear about, and start to dive into and start to kind of understand it as a collective. And so we can use that wisdom to move forward with the food security plan for the state of Vermont. And all of your stories and experiences are matter and are important, and we want to know about them. So we're gonna go into breakout rooms, and we're gonna use Jamboard as a way to collect ideas that people are sharing. I don't know anything much about Jamboard, and so I'm gonna turn it over to Becca so she can explain the beauties of Jamboard.
Beauties, it's so beautiful. Okay, hold on, I had it open and then it vanished. Okay, I'm just gonna share my screen. So I put the link into the chat, but I'll do it again. And this, I'm hoping this is going to work for everybody. We've tried it in the past and it has worked. So who knows how it's going to go. So this is the Jamboard. So in a minute, you'll be able to choose, you'll be assigned to breakout rooms. I think we're going to go automatically into 5-person breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have 5 people. But we'll all be working on the same Jamboard. And the important things to know about the Jamboard is how to make a sticky note. You just click on this thing that looks like a sticky note and your sticky note appears and you write. And then it appears on the thing. And if you want to stop making the sticky note, you click off of it. So it's just like a whiteboard. And then there are many endless pages in a Jamboard. And so you can just click through if your page. Oh, Steph says this link worked, but the link provided yesterday required a Google account. Okay. So if you run out of space, you're just going to click through and make a new page. And it shows here that I made 7 pages when I created this, but you can make more. I think we can all make more. And in fact, I'm relying on it for note taking in our second breakout conversation. Okay. So I'm hopeful that in each breakout room, there'll be someone who understands this technology. Is anyone, I can't see everyone anyway, but is anyone having like absolutely well, here's what we'll do. We'll assign to breakout rooms, but I'll stay in the main room. And if anyone's having tech issues, I can try to help. How about that? Okay, so does everyone understand our instructions and feel like you can self-organize to tackle this prompting question? I see some yellow thumbs up and some, 2 real thumbs up, some nodding. Okay, awesome. Oh, someone wrote universal meals. Great example. Okay, thank you. Caitlin, can you break us into groups and we'll be back here at 2:05.
Yes, and just a quick note, there will be a 60-second warning before you are pulled back into the main room. You will have the option to come back to the main room at any time if you have questions. So have great breakouts, everyone. And then there was me. Hi there. You're muted.
I just came back to see if everyone was here. I think I'll just stay here.
Okay.
In case anything happens.
Yeah, we're good. I think just checking rooms. I think we're at, some people must have jumped around a little bit. I've got 1 or 2 rooms that have 6 for some reason, and then 1 or 2 that have 4. Not sure why it didn't shuffle out properly, but.
Well, I left my room. So.
Yep, I can see where you were. It wasn't that. And then I've got 1 that has 3. Well, anyway, at least 3 is not 1 or 2. So I think they'll still be able to have good discussions. Nothing
Okay.
look
Okay.
over the top here. I think there were a couple people that were hopping in and out of the full session before, so that might have skewed some numbers.
I see. Okay.
And the fact that people aren't coming back means hopefully they're clear on the instructions and using the Jamboard. That's very cool. I've heard about it, but I've never really seen it in action like that. And it looks like a really interesting option.
It's helpful for me because I sometimes talking isn't my thing. Like doing this is extremely nerve-wracking for me, which I just need to figure out how to change that. But so for me, being able to write is also very helpful.
Well, it doesn't come across that you're nervous at all.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
How many attendees do we have? because I have my note here is that we're going to check in about the breakout groups.
Yes, we should be fine. We had about 47,
Okay.
and that's including all of us. So,
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll see how it goes. We might move people around.
okay. And then let me see here. So we've got a little bit of time before we go into those next breakout rooms.
Right. So everyone's going to come back at 2:05, hopefully. And I will just briefly say, you know, hooray. And then I'll go back into the slide deck.
Okay,
Um,
perfect. That will give me just a few minutes in between so that I can set up those next breakout rooms since they're actually named, and we'll be allowing people to choose their own. So I can't set any of that up until they're back from this round of breakout rooms.
oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, well, I'll be yakking for a little bit. So
It's fine. It shouldn't take me more than 5 minutes. So as long as I have that much, we'll be good. Let me see. Where is your email? Because you had provided the names of those groups specifically.
oh yeah, I can text them to you. I can just put them in the chat. That would be helpful.
I think I have them. Here they are. Nope, I have them. We're all set.
Okay.
Just had to dig through my email for a moment. Because the versions on the agenda are more descriptive than exact names.
Yes, exactly.
But no, those are perfect. So I'm sorry that 2 of our presenters couldn't join us, but I felt like you and Katie both did a great job of summarizing.
It's amazing.
And the fact that we're recording this means that you can still share it with Jenna and Valerie if they want to see.
Right, that's right.
Yep. And Valerie, especially, all those nice notes in the chat, I think would be nice to share with her.
Which I haven't seen. Do you want to keep me recording this section, or should we pause it for now so you don't have? I hope it looks like there were some amazing conversations. I'm seeing that first Jamboard screen looks like a co-op bulletin board. I'm looking for the guitar lessons tab. So thank you all for taking the time to really dive in with one another. I'm hoping you had some great conversations, and I think just because of a time and number of people limits, we're not going to do like a report back. The Jamboard serves a little bit as that, as something to look at and absorb on your own. I'm just going to give I'm going to talk a little bit more, and then we're going to go back into breakouts in a different way and have a different type of conversation. And you will want to keep the Jamboard open, because I'm going to someone is screen sharing.
It's Susan Zimet. If you could stop sharing your screen, Susan, that would be great.
Okay. But see, what Susan was doing was printing the Jamboard, it was a great little tip that you can do it. Who even knew? Okay, so keep the Jamboard link, because when we go back into our next breakouts, I would like people one person in the breakout rooms to take notes into a fresh Jamboard screen, because all too often there are notes taken in breakouts and then they never make it back to the central command. And I'm going to need, especially these notes in the next breakout. We are going to need them for the priority strategy team. So with all these struggles and successes fresh in our minds from this, getting our juices flowing on this Jamboard, we're just going to start a conversation together about what a food security plan's process and contents could look like. So as I said at the beginning, and some of you hadn't joined yet, but you may have seen during Jake's remarks that creating a food security plan is a priority strategy for the state, and the network is providing a container for it. And there will be a network group focused on this priority strategy, and I am the Jobs Fund backbone staff member supporting the work of that group. And the Jobs Fund has already solicited funding to support stakeholder engagement, participation stipends, and research needs as we move forward on creating this plan. And the first meeting of that priority team, strategy team, we're all going to be working really hard on what we're calling our groups. I believe it's a strategy team. Will be on December 10th from noon to 2 on Zoom. And I have you all your emails are in my possession now. So I will send information on joining that meeting out to you, and you can opt into it. And please reach out to me with any questions or to chat at any point. That's what I'm here for, is to gather together. And I was just so struck by Megan's net metaphor from the plenary panel, because some of you have spoken with me in the past couple of weeks. There's been a little moment where I'm like, I feel like the image is like taking pieces and tying a knot, but I've loved the image of this food security plan is like, we're bringing not threads, but ropes together, but I didn't like the knot. And I feel like the net metaphor is the way to go, because to create a plan or a roadmap to ensure that everyone at all times has physical, social, and economic access to safe, sufficient, nutritious food, both now and as climate change shifts our society and ecosystem, is a huge goal that we are going to have to create a net. So I'm hoping the food security plan that we're going to create together will make a strong net. And we're going to take the next half an hour to go back into breakout groups. And sorry, sometimes the chat is distracting to me. We're going to go back into great breakout groups and break down some of these super lofty questions that come up from the idea of creating a food security plan. So I'm going to go back to the slideshow. Please hold the phone while I share my screen. And now I have to get my presenter. Is everyone seeing just the presentation view of the slideshow at this point? Okay. The person I can see is Lisa. So if Lisa can see it, I think we're good. Okay. So again, this is the strategic priority 24 for the food security plan. Oh, hold on. Continue to have your own deep thoughts. Somehow I've lost presenter view in my many, many screens. Aha. Okay. Oops, sorry, that was kind of loud. Okay. So this is the plan. This is the strategic priority. So what we're going to do is we're going to break into groups on 3 discussion topics. And because there's about 40 of us, we have a choice to, we'll have a couple groups on each discussion topic. So, and I'm hoping that these discussion topics give good options for different types of brains. So there's like some big abstract thinking topic. There's some practical project ideas. There's some connection, networky brain type of thinking. So in two groups, or maybe just one, depending on how many people choose this, because you're going to get to choose your breakout groups, are going to tackle this question of what should be in a food security plan. What form does the plan take? Is it a plan? Is it a website? Is it a chart? Is it a net? Does it create measurable and achievable goals? Does it share a general vision? What would it need to be or to have in order for you to use it in your work? So that's our first thorny question that people who join the groups on that topic are going to be seeding these conversations for the action team or the strategy team. The priority team, the strategy team, or the action team. I don't know which one. Okay, so there's going to be 2 groups on that are going to talk about this, investigating questions, including but not limited to these items. And so the prompts here that you can add to are, what are the areas we should be digging into in a new or different way? What questions do you have for other sectors related to food security and the food supply? What sectors or professions are we not talking to, but should be? So, who's we in this case? Everyone has their own we. And then we have, this isn't in the priority strategy, but it's in our mandate, my mandate as a backbone person and some of our work planning, which is to involve food insecure individuals, racial and ethnic minorities, people with disabilities, farmers, migrant farm workers, and others in the planning. So basically not just people who are professional food system employees only, but people who have lived experience or don't have equitable access to the food system. So how is this actually going to happen? An ambitious and worthy wish. How are these people going to get people in these categories of experience going to get involved in the planning, and not only give input and then never be heard from again, but direct the process, influence the plan? So again, so these are the discussion topics in the 6 groups. So what's happened is Caitlin has set up the breakout rooms there's 2 each with these titles. And so in theory, what's going to happen is when the breakout rooms open, you're going to choose which topic you want to gnaw on with your colleagues here. And in theory, this will happen in a very numerically even way where equal numbers of people will choose all the different groups. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know, but I'm sure we can all self-organize. I'll hang out here in the main room for a little while to make sure that everyone's been able to situate themselves. If there's going to be some self-facilitation because there's so many groups, and I know there are many amazing facilitators among us. And one really important thing just to say again is when you get into your group, please choose someone to take notes into the Jamboard. So you can click through, find a blank screen, and you can just take notes either as a post-it or creating a text box. I really need this conversation to be recorded. So like I said, I'll be staying in the main room a little bit. Are there any burning questions? I can't see the chat really, but are there any, oh wait, I saw a hand. Oh, Ellen Kaler, please.
And can you put me in the first group there of what is the plan exactly? Because I have some, I can help to frame up what that is.
Beautiful. So just again, to reiterate, Ellen, you will be choosing your own group. So what'll happen, it'll say breakouts and it'll come up and you'll get to say join.
But Ellen, I'll keep an eye on it. And if you have any trouble getting into groups, I will make sure that you are in one of those.
Thank you. Now it's just me not paying attention and listening to directions that Becca has so ably provided to us.
Everyone learns and hears in a different way. All are welcome. Katie, you putting the questions into the chat reminds me that Caitlin knows how, I think, or we will figure out how to message everyone once they're in the breakout rooms with those prompting questions, because I think you will lose the chat when you go in the breakout room, or maybe not. We'll figure that out though. Okay, does everyone feel okay enough with this plan to know what they're doing?
Great. So everybody, I'm about to open the rooms. You're going to have, based on the time left in the session, 20 minutes for discussion. And then I will pull everyone back into the main room again. We'll have a few minutes for wrap up because we do have a hard stop at 2:45. So opening the rooms now.
Thank you, Caitlin. Okay, everyone, have fun. All right, so what happens, I'm just narrating just in case this will be helpful for anyone. When you see the breakout rooms, you have to go down to the bottom and then you'll see the choices to join.
All right, there we go. We got a couple people going for the B groups. Everyone was going for the A's.
Just a quick question. Is the B group related to affordable workforce housing and transportation?
I believe that would be one of the investigate questions sessions. So that would
Okay.
be, there's 2 of those.
Yep.
We've just divided them up into A and B, but you could join either.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Right, looks like everyone's gone into A.
What was that?
It looks like there's no one in B, so just choose A, investigate questions A.
Okay. Thank you. See ya.
And then Becca, it does look like everyone is going into the A session. So they are larger groups. Do you want to pop into any of those A groups and ask people to move?
They can do it. I think they can do what they want to do. Coy, you are the only one involved in food insecure people. B.
You can sit here and talk to us if you want. Or I'll go in the B group with you.
It looks
Yeah.
like there's room in A though. Oh, good. Oh, good.
It felt, yeah. Well, and initially too, we thought that there might be like 60 people here. Like, I feel less worried about this and the way it's kind of working out.
Great.
Okay. Hi, everyone. How'd it go? We have like 7 minutes. Does anyone have any feedback about how this worked, and did it feel okay? And does it feel like, how are you, what are your feelings and your experiences?
I felt so inspired by everything that everyone in my group shared, just the perspective and the reality that a food security plan that's truly resilient needs to be a plan for all people. Because anyone and everyone can experience food insecurity at different times, and the power of storytelling and vulnerability and community connection is what makes food an equalizing force instead of one that separates and creates hierarchy. Boom.
Nice. Thank you, Lisa.
Can I add a little something? I was, so we were kind of free floating. We weren't sure exactly the mission, but again, just inspired by the people that were in my group. Some of the things that we came out of with what is a food security plan, some things we realized that were another kind of mind blow is how much we rely on volunteers in especially gleaning or donations or making meals, driving, that there's so much dependency on volunteers, and with the pandemic that evaporated. So having more formalized ways of making sure that those donations or the manpower that needs to happen for food shelves and all the layers, the dissemination needs to be looked at. And also more of a systematic, we were talking about more systematic plan. We have regional planning commissions, we have town plans. Why is food security not part of the sustainability in these entities? It is mind-boggling. So anyways, that's an opportunity to have a more systematic approach as well as a local approach. Just a thought.
Thank you, Tracy. Oh, Tori, I see your hand is raised.
Hi, yeah. So I work for a regional planning commission, so I guess I just kind of wanted to respond to what Tracy was just speaking to. So really the reason why it's not in town plans as regional plans is because it's not statutorily required. Often towns do not like to go above and beyond what's required. So I hope that can give a little bit of insight why it's not widely done yet, but we're slowly working on it.
Thanks, Tori. Great example of all how we need to tie the net together so we all know the answers to these questions. And a little bit like Helen's presentation at the plenary, think about, or I guess it's a little bit understanding like, oh, we're not even saying things in the right way. It was a little bit, Helen, what I took away from you today was thinking about how digging into what the language really means and understanding different professional approaches is really going to help make the strong net. I'm going to work on my metaphor use. So I'm just going to share our last 2 slides. Let's see. Should be sharing any second now, it says. Did it work? Oh, there we go. Yes? My computer is starting to feel tired, I can tell. So this is the what's next. You're on my list to receive emails on this topic, on this action team, on this action strategy. So we'll be sending out, as you know, the recording of this session will be available, but I'll particularly send it to all of you. And Katie had the idea of creating a PDF of the Jamboard and sharing that as well. As the new Farm to Plate website gets up and going, there'll be a web presence of this project. It's not clear what will bridge the time between the current website and the future website yet, but something will be there. We'll be having a priority strategy team meeting on December 10th, as I mentioned. I will send you notes about how to get involved with that. There will be future meetings and communications scheduled. It's my hope that together we'll figure out a way where coming to meetings is not the only way to be significantly involved in this project. Please join the network-wide exchange that Jake mentioned in his opening comments, which I believe is December 16th, if I understood correctly. There will be the topic exchange on food access. If this isn't part of your work on a regular basis, you're welcome to come to the topic exchange, which is a new forum that will be happening in the network. So you'll be, just keep an eye out for that date, probably will be happening in March. And we really want you to stay connected with us, Katie and I know Jenna does as well. And just keep in touch. This is going to be a group net. That didn't come over quite. Together we will make the net. And I'm really looking forward to this project as it rolls out. I'm really excited to work with all of you and people across our state to make a food security roadmap. So I'm going to stop sharing. I think that is it. Katie, would you like to offer any closing thoughts?
Just to thank you to everyone for sharing so much of yourselves in the breakout rooms and putting up with speed talking so that we could get through all of this and get into digging into things together. And I look forward to seeing you all again sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So, Brett's going to give our next instructions for what's happening next. Don't leave.
Thanks for an awesome breakout. Sorry, Brett.
Oh, no worries. I said that's if I can figure out what's happening next. So I think we have a break, and then we're going to be going back into breakouts at 3 o'clock. So you can choose which breakout room you want to join for that session.
Right. So those are the session. You're going to choose your next topic session, basically. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
The word breakout is becoming confusing.
I know, it's a lot of breakouts and sub breakouts. So
breakout. All right. See everyone soon. Thank you so much.